Both astrology and mythology have captivated people for thousands of years. Though some connections between the zodiac and the Greek gods might be easy to guess, given that the Greeks themselves practiced a form of astrology with 12 signs, there are also some surprises to be found. While Artemis, Zeus, Apollo, and the rest of their kin were certainly deities, they were also uniquely human in their faults. When people look to those gods for inspiration or connection, they find not just aspirational figures but also the acknowledgement that flaws, too, are important for a person's character. What count as values and flaws may change over time, as they do with any historical figure's character traits, but our ability to identify with them, especially through the zodiac, transcends time. Hey folks, before we start with today's video, remember to subscribe as it really helps the channel. Few will be surprised that Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, is connected with Ares, the Greek god of war. Aries' ruling planet is Mars, the Roman name for Aries. Both Aries and Aries are known for their passion and anger, but, despite being homophones, there's no linguistic connection between them. Ares wasn't a particularly well-loved figure in ancient Athens, but he was a popular figure in Sparta, a more militaristic city-state. Likewise, Aries aren't necessarily everybody's cup of tea. Their courage is matched by their short tempers, but that doesn't make them bad, just difficult for some to get along with, hence their connection to the god of war. Like Aries, an Aries simply isn't to everybody's taste, but for those who take the time to get to know them, they're enthusiastic and valuable friends. Demeter is perhaps most famous for her connection to her daughter, Persephone, but Tauruses are likely to feel a deeper connection with her. Both Tauruses and Demeter are famed for their patient, devoted natures, though those traits can turn into stubbornness and possessiveness if left unchecked. In Greek myth, Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, fertility, and the cycles of birth and death. The fall and winter are her seasons of grieving her daughter. Her heartbreak over Persephone's union with Hades causes her to neglect her duties as nurturer. Likewise, the intense devotion that Tauruses feel can turn sour, and their world can go dark when they feel abandoned. But Demeter and Tauruses have wonderful traits as well. There are few figures in Greek tradition as nurturing as Demeter, and the practicality and stability of Tauruses makes them wonderful partners and friends. Just try not to leave them for somebody else for half the year. Geminis have a strong connection to Hermes, the Greek god of thieves, travelers, sports, and a host of other seemingly disparate ideas. Similarly, Geminis are naturally curious, often dipping their toes into many disciplines and learning them quickly before moving on to the next subject of interest. They soak up information and share it with others, their enthusiasm and sociability earning them many friends along the way. Hermes was the messenger of the gods, just as Geminis are fond of diving into conversations with new people. They often seek new companions, always in search of what they see as their missing half, the other side of their symbol, the twins. But this connection has drawbacks too. Some of Hermes' actions are morally ambiguous. He's a thief in some stories, and he has a tendency toward short, flighty encounters rather than deep connections. Likewise, Geminis can be indecisive and afraid of commitment, and be too preoccupied with what else is out there to really settle down. Naturally, the sign's ruling planet is Mercury, the Roman name for the Greek god. Hera, the wife of Zeus, is one of the Greek pantheon's most pitiable figures. Though she's the goddess of marriage, her husband is infamous for his constant infidelity. Cancers have a similar duality, being both loyal and intensely suspicious, sympathetic and insecure. But Hera, like Cancers, is not without agency. Just as the goddess punished those who wronged her with little remorse, Cancers can have a bit of a manipulative streak. Taking advantage of their loyal nature is unwise, because neither Hera nor Cancers will suffer fools. They are kind and compassionate to those they care about, but those they care about had better care back or they'll find themselves on the wrong side of wrath. Still, both Hera and Cancers have tough exteriors to protect their inner softness. That the astrological symbol for Cancer is the crab is no coincidence. Cancers are feelings-driven and emotional, and therefore protect themselves by building walls around their true selves. But once a person does break through these barriers, they'll find someone compassionate, kind, and loyal to a fault. Leo's ruling sign is the sun, so it's no surprise their closest Greek god equivalent is Apollo, the god of the sun. But the sun isn't this god's only domain. He's also connected with various forms of art, archery, oracles, and medicine. Like Leo's, his passions are connected with warmth and creativity, though they're not without a dangerous edge. Leos are generally generous and cheerful, but it's not a coincidence that they're the sign of the lion. Anger them and you'll find arrogance and stubbornness. They often have a high opinion of themselves. Lions are the kings of the jungle after all. Likewise, Apollo's vengeance was famed. Each of his skills could be reversed to wreak great harm. The sun is warm and life-giving, but its absence or abundance can cause pain. Archery can provide, but it can wound. Medicine heals, but can cause illness. Leos would do well to remember this, as the traits that make them great can have alternate effects if not wielded responsibly. Artemis, unlike many of the Greek gods, is known for being chaste. She held dominion over the hunt and virginity, and was the protector of children. It's no surprise, then, that Virgo, the Virgin, is the sign most associated with her. Both are known for their loyalty and hard-working natures rather than indulgences. The faults of many signs come from their passions or intensity, but not Virgo's. Instead, Virgos have a tendency to be too hard-working, sometimes denying themselves pleasure as they seek a sense of satisfaction from all that they do. Artemis, too, lacks the passionate stories of many other Greek gods. Her stories are less scandalous than those of Zeus or Ares, and we tend to find her taking revenge or acting as a type of guardian more often than not. Artemis can serve as a cautionary tale for modern Virgos. While hard work is their specialty, making time for others is also important. Indulge a little, as the other signs do. There's happiness to be found in pampering the self as much as pampering others. Aphrodite is the Greek goddess of love and beauty, associated with the planet Venus, and named after the Roman equivalent to Aphrodite. Not coincidentally, Venus is also the ruling planet of Libra, and embodies many of the characteristics associated with Aphrodite. As the goddess of love, Aphrodite was said to have many consorts, both god and human alike. While the same may not be true of a modern Libra, they, too, tend to prefer company to being alone. They are diplomatic and concerned with fairness, hence the representative sign of the scales. Aphrodite's famed feud with Hera and Athena, over which goddess was the fairest, is said to have caused the Trojan War. Important to note is that, despite being the cause of one of history's great conflicts, Aphrodite herself did not fight. Like Aphrodite, Libras avoid confrontation, but can certainly hold a grudge. The distinction is important. Aphrodite, just like Libras, will never start a fight, but she will certainly remember who did. The story of Hades and Persephone is one of the most famous in Greek mythology. Hades, the god of the underworld, kidnaps Persephone and brings her to his home, tricking her into eating 6 pomegranate seeds, the food of the dead, to keep her there for 6 months of the year. Scorpius, some of the naturally darkest among the signs, are likely to see some of themselves in this story. They, too, are known for their jealousy and tendency toward possessiveness. But unlike many underworld figures in mythology, Hades isn't entirely evil. His job is to oversee the dead, not to punish them. Despite perception, Scorpios aren't all darkness and evil. Quite often they shroud themselves in it to hide their feelings and vulnerability. In the myth, Hades is not just Persephone's captor. When she's with him, they are husband and wife, the 2 overseers of the underworld. Many read their relationship as one of passion and caring, not just of kidnapper and victim. Still, Scorpios should know that their actions matter. Passion can turn to jealousy, and thinking not just of personal desires but of long-term consequences is important. Zeus is the ruler of the Greek gods, husband of Hera, overseer of earth and sky, and notorious cheater. His flaws are part of what makes him such a compelling figure. Just like Sagittarii, his power and wisdom are offset by indulgence and boisterousness. Zeus's duality, he's both the leader of the Greek gods and famed for his infidelity to his wife, the goddess of marriage, likely sits well with Sagittarii. They too love the world and all its indulgences, which can get them in trouble on occasion. Their idealism and desire for complete freedom also mean they can sometimes isolate others. Both Zeus and Sagittarius have to be cautious so that their desires don't supersede their relationships. Their ambitions often override their consideration for others. Still, Zeus is patriarch for a reason. He gets things done, just like a modern Sagittarius. Those big ideas can sometimes translate into big action. Without godly powers to back them up, Sagittarius would do well to keep their ambitions high, but also work on those planning skills. Hephaestus, the Greek god of fire, metalworking, and sculpture, is known less for his own exploits and more for his treatment at the hands of others. Famed for his many talents rather than his beauty, Hephaestus was said to be the only ugly god of the pantheon. He crafted many of the gods' most important weapons and armor. Capricorns can likely identify with these traits. One of the most hardworking signs of the zodiac, Capricorns are disciplined and resourceful, even when surrounded by chaos. Like Hephaestus, they do have a tendency to be unforgiving. One of the god's most famous stories concerns him trapping his wife in a cage for her infidelity, so that all the other gods could laugh at her. What modern Capricorns can take from their connection with Hephaestus is to not let their work become their whole life. There's plenty of life to see beyond what they create. Spend a little time indulging as the other signs do, and live life a little fuller. Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom and war, is certainly an aspirational figure. As the patron deity of the city-state of Athens, she represents the culture's dedication to law, order, and justice, but also her strategic knowledge of warfare. Aquarians, too, hold dominion over a wide realm. They are progressive and intellectual, but can be uncompromising and temperamental if pushed. Though Athena was the goddess of wisdom and strategy, she was not without flaws. In one of her more famous stories, she turns Arachne into a spider for boasting about being a better weaver than the goddess. That's where her temper comes in. Just like Aquarians, their dedication to order can also be their undoing. Because those born under the sign of Aquarius tend to be aloof and distant, leaning into those stories of the goddess that discuss her compassion and artistry can be wise. No one person is any one thing all the time, and finding those parts of the Aquarian's mind will help them be a more rounded person. Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, is the god most closely associated with Pisces, the zodiac sign of the fish. Their connection is more than just an affinity for water, however. Both are known for their wisdom and maturity, but also their tendency to be overly emotional. Poseidon's dominion over the seas also extended to his control of earthquakes, drought, and horses. Though few of his stories are about vengeance, those that are noteworthy. Because he lost rule of Athens to Athena, he cursed the city with drought. When he was denied payment for building the walls of Troy, he sent a sea monster to destroy them. While Pisces are usually more even-keeled than their associated god, they too have a tendency to let their emotions rule their actions. That isn't always bad, though. You'll know a Pisces speaks what they feel. But it's important to not let negative emotions rule every choice they make. Be open and honest, as a Pisces is, but maybe find a more positive outlet for anger than sea monsters.